So in just a moment I'll bring the Bible story for you for this week, and first of all we've got family news. And yesterday was a special birthday. It was Jack's birthday and he was 17, so I can't believe it. But anyway, Jack, I hope you had a really special day, and of course you're going to get some bubbles. There you go. And also on the 29th of May next week, it's Ava's 5-year baptism anniversary. So congratulations, Ava. See if Mum and Dad have got a photograph they could show you how tiny you were when you were baptised. And our Bible reading for today, it's based on Acts 2. People from all over the world were arriving in Jerusalem for Pentecost, a special Jewish festival. They had no idea that this was going to be a Pentecost celebration like never before. A day that would change the world. On the actual day of Pentecost, the disciples were in Jerusalem too, all together in one house, praying and waiting, just as Jesus had told them to. And wondering when the promised Holy Spirit would come and what it would look like when he did. Well, they didn't have long to wait before they found out. The disciples' prayer time was interrupted by what sounded like a hurricane-force wind rushing through. But the sound wasn't coming from outside the building. This was no freak storm. The sound was filling the house from the inside. Then a pillar of fire appeared, which separated into flames. The flames rested on each of the disciples, but nothing and no one was burnt. At that moment, each of the disciples was filled with the promised Holy Spirit. Each of them felt a surge of fearless excitement and started to speak loudly and boldly about all the wonderful things they had seen God do. They were no longer afraid. Something else was different too. The disciples were speaking in different languages they had never learned. The Holy Spirit was helping them. Outside, a crowd began to gather around the house the disciples were in. All the visitors from around the world had heard the sound of the mighty rushing wind too. They all ran to see what was happening. There was lots of pushing and shoving and trying to get to the front of the crowd. Then wide-eyed with amazement, as they each heard the wonderful good news of God being proclaimed in their own languages. Almost the whole crowd was buzzing with excitement and asking, "What is happening here? And what could this mean?" But some people made fun of the disciples. They accused them of drinking too much wine. Then Peter stepped forward and shouted for the crowds to be quiet. He told them, "Listen to me, all of you. These people are not drunk. It's far too early in the morning for that. No, what you see happening here was prophesied long ago by the prophet Joel. Through Joel, God told his people that a time would come when he would pour out his Spirit on all people. Sons and daughters would prophesy, young men would see visions, and old men would dream God-given dreams. God said at the right time he would pour out his Spirit on both men and women and on servants, and they would be able to prophesy. What you see happening is the fulfillment of what God said through Joel." And Peter spoke for a long time, explaining to the crowd all about Jesus, his life, his death, and his resurrection. And by the end of that day, 3,000 people had become followers of Jesus.